So in this video, I wanted to discuss a topic that I call the engineering mindset. So you don't have to have any background in science, engineering, or even a technical mindset at all to really utilize the engineering mindset. And I'm gonna break it down in its simplest forms, and I think it'll really help you on your landscape photography journey, getting better, and it's helped me at least in all other aspects of life as well. So before I was a landscape photographer, I was an aerospace engineer, and I worked for the Boeing company. They build 777 model jumbo jets, which are the longest range jumbo jets in the world. They also bring the 747 and many other big jumbo jetliners that you have flown across the country or the world in. So I worked there, and my job there was called MRB engineer. That's called Material Review Board. Sounds boring, but it was actually a lot of fun. So when they're putting together airplanes, they have this drawing that scientists and engineers have designed, and it says the airplane should be exactly like this drawing. Well, when you get into the real world, you find out that it's impossible to have humans that make errors build anything that perfectly matches the drawing that was designed. So there's all these mistakes made along the way. And when those mistakes are made, it's not feasible to take the entire airplane apart and fix the mistakes. So instead of returning the airplane back to perfection or back to redrawing requirements, they have MRB engineers. And what we would do is we would look at the mistake. We would look at the damage to the airplane. This was during production. And we would say, in what ways can we fix this mistake and allow the airplane to still fly, still to be safe, and still to go in the skies for 30 years without causing harm to human beings or anything else. So what we would do is we would look at the problem, we would run all the load numbers that go through the parts, we would say, hey, this is supposed to be like this, but let's do this, I always call them garage repairs. Let's put this back together in a way, maybe making new parts for it, maybe using old parts and somehow patching them up, but putting it back together in a way that is still safe. So I would have to think through all these steps and kind of use my creative mind, design repairs, and then step by step I would have to take that creative idea that I had to repair the airplane and put it into step by step directions. Now what I learned from this is that to write something down step by step and put it into a process that somebody can follow that you don't know is really hard to do at first, but the best way to make it easy to understand is to use clear and concise language that is very direct and very step by step and easy to visualize when you read it. So I would have to write out these repairs or instructions, and then they would get sent out to manufacturing, meaning the guys that actually take their hands and put the airplane together. They drill holes, they put parts up, they bolt stuff together. I wouldn't actually be seeing these guys, so they'd have to read my directions and then put the airplane back together to match those directions. So over time, I got really good at two things. The first thing I got good at was visualizing something that didn't exist in the real world and then building it out into real life. The second thing that I got fairly good at was taking that creation from my mind and putting it into step by step directions. Now, one thing that I really learned during that period is that when I first get these step-by-step directions written down, they're not optimal. So when I read through all the directions the first time, I'll think to myself, oh, I should probably change this, or I should reverse the order of this, or nah, that doesn't make sense in this scenario. But I never could really see that until I put everything down into a standard process or a step-by-step direction base that I could actually have other people read. So by doing that, I was slowly taking my ideas from my mind, creating something that I could see but didn't exist in reality, and then after I got that thing into a step-by-step directional guide, then I would optimize it and make it better and better and better until I felt that it was good enough to go on an airplane and fly for 30 years. So I got into this at first and I was like, why am I not doing that with other aspects of my life? So I was still a full-time engineer then, and I started to do it at home. I started to do it with my landscape photography. And what I noticed when I started writing out the landscape photography steps, say for camera technique, for example, is that the ways that I was doing camera technique before I wrote down the step-by-step and the ways that I was doing camera technique after I wrote down the step-by-step and optimized it were completely different. So what I noticed is that my camera technique was sloppy and it wasn't optimized, and I could make it a lot better. So over time I applied this to all parts of photography, including photo editing, cameras, equipment, and everything else that I could write down, make a step-by-step, and optimize it for. So over time I saw that the engineering mindset of visualizing and creating something, breaking it down into its smallest possible steps, and then creating it in the real world after optimizing those steps is just a great mindset to have. You don't have to understand science, you don't even have to like science, but using that mindset to optimize your life or optimize skills you use in life can get you to places a lot faster than not doing that. So from personal experience, I have seen the engineering mindset completely transform how I make all decisions in my life, but more importantly, my fear of creating things in my mind that I don't think are possible at first, and then breaking them down into their smallest steps. And I say, when I look at those steps, something that might intimidate me as far as being impossible to do doesn't look so intimidating when it's broken down to those small steps. So I know I have this framework to trust in. So whenever I have something that scares me that I decide is a goal, or something I need to go do as far as a trip, or anything else that I want to aim for, I know I have this engineering mindset system where I can just break it down into the steps, optimize, and then work on one specific step at a time. And that makes things way less overwhelming. The other nice thing about the engineering mindset, at least for me, is that I always know that I'm going to learn a lot and get better, and I'm never at the point where I want to stagnate, meaning I know enough about landscape photography now that I feel that I can clearly and concisely teach it to others, but I have a lot more to learn, and I want to show that learning process and the problem-solving process just as much as the final result, because I think learning to problem solve and learning to be creative and then build things for yourself in your life is just a great way to feel good on the path to getting better at anything. And for me, that thing is landscape photography. So that whole process is something I want to ingrain into all my courses and everything I teach you guys. And over time, hopefully, you'll see that process starting to take place in your life, and you'll be able to look at things you want to do and say, hey, actually I can do that because I can just break it down into the smallest steps, optimize those steps, build it, and then in a few years' time I'll be to where I had dreamed up in my mind. And then you can just repeat the whole process again. So the short-winded answer to this long explanation of the engineering process is that you don't have to worry about learning the engineering process or mindset right away, but it'll be taught to you in all the content that I create and all the courses. So whenever I'm teaching you a camera technique, you can see that it's been optimized, but you can always look to optimize it yourself, because what works really well for some person or one person might not be perfect for another person. So the goal is that you can always optimize the steps when looking at them as their simplest possible form. And more than anything, that's what I want all these videos and courses and series to teach you guys, because you will apply it to your photography, but then it kind of displays out into the rest of your life. At least that's what happened to me. So if it happens to a few of you others as well, that'd be great. So whenever you're seeing new videos from me, you'll know that the process has been thought through. But the nice part about the engineering mindset is it should always be open to others looking at the process and saying, hey, well, why don't you do that thing this way? Because when you put a process out there or a step-by-step that you've thought about, somebody else's viewpoint can often point out little things that you missed. And I always want that to be the case with anything I put out, that people can critique it, they can use it, or they could say, well, why don't you change this or make that better? So it's a huge feedback loop of learning, and everybody having the open mind to say, I could potentially be wrong at any point, but here's what I'm thinking, and here's my thought process as clear as I can possibly write it. So please critique it and make it better. I'm always looking for feedback. You can always leave me a comment, email me, or whatever else, and say, hey, look at this thing. Have you ever thought about doing it this way? So hopefully that mindset will display out into the rest of the videos, and hopefully you guys get a lot from the engineering mindset. I know I did. So I'll see you guys in the next videos. Once again, thanks for being here. Leave me a comment below with a question you may have had. I'll be answering them in future Q&A sessions. Also, leaving me a like or hitting the subscribe button to follow my channel is a huge help. I don't ask for anything besides that, but if you would like to sign up and join my landscape photography school, I have a 10-day free trial which gives you unlimited access to all of the courses that I have that teach every single skill set about landscape and outdoor photography. These are skills that I've tuned, honed, and designed over the last 10 years as a full-time wilderness photographer. So if you'd like to get free access, test out all the courses, learn composition, learn camera technique, photo editing, organization, everything else that goes into the complete creation of wilderness and landscape photography images, check out the link below this video. Get signed up. No strings attached, no credit card required. I just want to give you guys access to understand everything that I know about landscape and outdoor photography. So thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.